Welcome to the Cool Fireman Podcast, a virtual firehouse kitchen table with Matt, Adam, Brian, Doug, and Freddie, where they discuss everything that matters in today's fire service. Now let's get to the show.
I'm doing
Greatest cinemas of all time.
Go ahead.
What are you doing tomorrow?
I am baking my first sourdough loaf.
Nice.
I started
I love a good sourdough.
sourdough starter a few weeks ago, and I've done a couple of sourdough discard recipes. I've made pizza dough with it, and I've also this morning I made my kids pancakes. It was phenomenal. Very good. I would recommend.
I was going to ask a question. Like, is baking more your thing, or is cooking more your thing, or like what is it?
Baking is no joke. Baking is very tough because literally, if you let the mixer mix like 2 times too many, the whole recipe's screwed. You know,
I have a bread maker, and sometimes it's a huge flop. Now, how can that be? It tells you on the bread machine recipe, put it in this order, this much hot water, everything. Like, it's supposed to be fail-proof. And sometimes I end up with the hardest big log of, I don't even know what it's called. It's like, it's bread, but it's not bread.
That's how hard baking is. When a bread machine can't do it, that tells you something. I am not a baker. Kels makes these little cookies with those little like peanut butter cookies with the Hershey Kiss in the middle of them.
Yes, that was easy for you to say, by the way.
Oh, my favorite cookie of all time. And she makes those fresh for like during the holidays, during Christmas time. She'll make those.
Like snickerdoodles with a chocolate kiss in the middle. Is that what that is?
Baking is a science.
The kids are saying.
Baking is a science.
Bruh.
I said that to my son today, and he did not like that, just for clarity.
Since we're talking about kids, can we do a quick PSA?
Sure. I want to go back and talk about
drugs.
All of you can know. Well, that too. But all of you kids are riding around on these electric bikes, and you're not wearing helmets. Why are you not wearing helmets? A. And B, if they are wearing helmets, they don't click the little clasp. We've been running a lot of electric bike accidents at work, and these kids are wearing these helmets without clasping their little clasp. They're clipping their little clasp, or however you say it, and they're flying off, and they're
How'd they go, Glenn?
And they hit their heads, and then we have to take them to the trauma center, and their parents don't like that at all. So anyways, wear a helmet, gosh darn it, and when you do wear it, clip the clasp, will you?
Yeah, I like that.
There you go. In California, we have click it or ticket. For your do you guys have that too?
Yes.
Click it or ticket. We are clasp it. I don't know. I'll come up with something.
Clasp it or grasp it?
Yeah. Anyways, so I'm excited about my sourdough bread tomorrow.
Well,
it's an all day thing. You gotta fold it. You gotta spread it. It's fermenting.
I hope it's not a flop. And I genuinely mean that. Like, that's not a jab, but like we just said, it's very hard. And like, I've done that before. Probably the one that turns out the best for me the most. And if you watch my channel, you'll see that I do that, is the cinnamon raisin bread. I did a garlic, herb, and cheese using the garlic and herb from Adam's. That was like a sourdough.
Dude.
And it was so good. And then I tried making it again, and I was like, I'm going to make, hey, this was so good. Let's try it again, kind of like content. And the second time it was a flop, and I did it the exact same way. And like same settings, everything. Yeah. And it was a flop. Hey, can I go back and ask a question? You said that was your favorite cookie. Adam, what's your favorite cookie?
Mine is either the commissary on base makes a almond joy. So it's like lots of, it's a coconut cookie with some chunks of chocolate in it. Take the chunk of chocolate out, but I love a good coconut cookie.
So 2 thoughts. Number 1, right now, drop a comment. Let us know what your favorite cookie is.
I
want to know. You knew I was going there. Right?
I was going to go there if you didn't.
I want to know what's your favorite comment.
I want to know what your favorite comment or cookie.
What your favorite cookie is in the comments. I got ahead of myself. I got all excited. Second thought before
about cookies, he goes,
yes, I love cookies. Fat kid loves cookies. What can I say? The thing that I was going to mention to Adam is, have you ever noticed that coconuts as a whole, shaved coconuts have the contour of like toenails. It looks like a bag of just toenails.
They might as well taste like toenails. I can't do that.
Yes.
No,
Like people will eat coconut cake and it looks beautiful. Like it looks like just a, big fluffy snow covered cake.
All things coconut, man.
Not here for the toenails.
I got to say that our best conversations on this gosh darn podcast are about food.
I know.
I've mentioned that before, and it's just true. It's just, this is what we talk about mostly around the coffee table. The virtual coffee table is the same. We talk about food.
Yes.
Here we are talking about cookies.
So I know we said we were going to be short, and we want to get to the point of this podcast, which I think is really cool, and we need to do that. So I'm going to drop mine real quick. I love an oatmeal raisin. Oatmeal raisin is my favorite.
God. Don't eat nothing on the bone. So no ribs, no chicken thighs.
That's such like an old man cookie.
God, why don't you just say what you really like? You like those preacher cookies, don't you?
I don't even know what a preacher cookie is. But I do like my number 2 is a Biscoff cookie.
Oh, guys. Oh, I am recording. Am I recording? Oh, I'm recording. Oh, my God. It scared me.
You did hit the record button. I was like, what's happening? Like, Zoom 20,000?
Zoom updated something because it always says recording in the top left. And I don't know. I just skipped a beat in my heart. And because we were having such a good conversation, I'm like, we can't do this again. We can't replicate that.
Yeah, because Brian would change his cookie.
Oh,
no, I would not
change his cookie after our reaction.
God, oatmeal raisin.
So real oatmeal raisin has got to be my favorite, and my second is Biscoff, and my third, the least healthy, is going to be peanut butter patties. I think we can all agree to that one.
All right, a little redemption.
Cookies?
A little bit of redemption there.
Yes, peanut butter patty cookies. They're so good. And if you go and get the JoJo's from Trader Joe's, oh my God, that's delicious. Because all that is instead of it being a whatever that is, a Ritz or whatever, it uses a Oreo. So good. I'm a fat kid. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, we're not. I'm just
it's
like
good.
The cookie number 1, cookie number 2. I'm just like,
you're let down by it.
Yeah, man. Why don't you just tell me you love the store-bought sugar cookies?
Nah. Not happening. Not happening.
Right,
but I do reminisce about other things like, back in VBS days, Vacation Bible School at church, you would get Kool-Aid and the little cookies that you could put on your fingers, like the little ring cookies.
They're butter cookies.
Butter cookies. Thank you. I couldn't think of the name of them right there. Those are good.
Yeah,
I like those too.
That's my boring favorite cookie.
Have you guys heard of the
You're
Two
going
Bears?
for economics.
Have you guys heard of the Two Bears, One Cave podcast?
Oh, yeah.
With Bert Kreischer? Oh, it's amazing. And
oh
my God, that clip had to have gone super viral. I don't know how many millions of views that clip has where Tom has what's in his water bottle and he says it's Kool-Aid. Oh my God. It is so hilarious.
I gotta go back and watch it.
400 cups of sugar.
Oh God. I mean, yeah. And that was when Bert was pretty big, but he's changed his ways a little bit, but anyway.
Before we go to the actual topic instead of the food topic, I want to give a shout out to the 2448 podcast. Adam was on that on season 1, and season 2 just dropped for that. I'm not giving us a jab in that.
When's our season 2 going to drop?
Who knows? Maybe.
I don't know. Drop a comment. Maybe there's somebody out there that has a good idea of when.
Yeah,
how long is a season?
How long is a season? We're on episode 68. It's all relative. But all jokes aside, they are on season number 2. I got interviewed a while back. My episode's supposed to launch about social media content creation, and I am by far not necessarily the guy that needs to do that, but I'm just honored to have been asked to do it. And I would just say go and support them. They're really good. And fingers crossed, we may have a special episode with some of the folks from 2448 in a upcoming episode of us. So who do you think it's going to be? High-Vis. I'm not going to share who it is. I'm just saying they have a lot of great people at High-Vis who are very comfortable in front of the camera. So drop a comment now in this and tell us who do you think we may interview from High-Vis.
Maybe one of us will be invited on the 48. The 24 or 48.
Where was he just at? Adam was on season 1. I'm on season 2. You're talking about for season 3.
No, I'm talking about for the Cool Fireman Podcast.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I'm sorry. I misunderstood your direction. I regress my last statement.
Yeah, that's okay.
So you want to talk about what we were going to talk about and then talk about it again?
Let's talk about what we were going to talk about, and then we'll talk about it again.
Okay. I like it. Let's do it.
What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk. So we briefly mentioned, I had a little bit of a rant in the last podcast. So if you didn't watch the last podcast, my rant was maybe not as passionate as one Douglas is his rant, but my rant was.
You mean Mia?
Talking about Mia, yeah.
Mia, MIA.
Yeah, where's
Doug?
Where's
Hashtag
Doug?
Where's Doug?
Hashtag where's Doug? We used to have hashtag where's Nick, and now we have hashtag where's Doug. Anyways, so I talked briefly about how much I value our relationship in the fire department with our police department, our local police department. Now that's not to say that local, surrounding police departments aren't as good. They are. They're I've worked with, the county has a big, sheriff's department, and they're all awesome. I've never met one that wasn't. And we just work so well together. And so we thought that maybe each of us in our own different departments, we run with different, not necessarily agencies, but different departments. So police departments, we work very closely with our lifeguard department. In fact, I think I've talked about it on the podcast before. These guys are just absolute studs. These guys, they do competitions together, the camaraderie, the culture that they have in our local lifeguards is just top notch. I would probably give them number one. I mean, I'd put them up against any lifeguard agency in the entire nation. And they're just such great dudes. Excuse me. I got a frog in my throat. And we work so well with them. They know, they have rope rescue systems, typically pretty dialed. They obviously help us with anything that has to do with water. So anybody that's in the water, they're there. It doesn't matter if it's 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. They get guys to show up. It's unbelievable. And I couldn't be more proud to work for a city that endorses and promotes all these different public safety departments. It's just really good. It's really amazing. In fact, we had our Marine safety chief just retired, 44 years on the job. I think that he was a rookie Marine safety officer or Marine safety. I don't know exactly. Their positions and ranks they kind of confuses me, but he was a rookie, I think in like 1982 or 6 or something like that. He's been doing it a very long time. And so he just retired. And the man that's taking his position as the chief is just as phenomenal. Like, we couldn't be more happy that he's leading the force there in the lifeguards. And so we work so well with him. So it'd be kind of cool. Like, I know that all over the country, it's different in the different, public safety sectors. I mean, pretty much for us, it's, fire, police, and marine safety, because we work on the ocean. So I don't know if you guys have certain departments or certain peoples that you work with a lot. We've talked about American Red Cross that helps us. We have CERT, which I put an M in there somehow last podcast, but it is Community Emergency Response Team. And it's pure volunteerism. That's all it is. And they go through, gosh darn, it would be amazing to have we have this guy, Sonny Meyer. He's the lead there, and they wear these green vests. And if there's ever like an emergency, if we have a fire in town, which we could very well, we had the big Laguna fire of 93. If you look that up, huge fire. It cost us billions of dollars in residential loss. And they're there to help with evacuations and whatever else we need. They're just very basic.
Securing gas, utilities.
Yeah, not really like EMT stuff, but just helping with
neighbors helping neighbors.
Help. Yeah. Exactly. Old school.
Yeah. Old school.
But yeah, I don't know. Let's touch on that. What do you think, Brian? You got anything special that you want? That you have?
Well, I yes, of course. I'm Brian Kelly. I've always got an opinion on it. So I think that on most things, I think the roles are important. Just today, I was working with our some of our board members on bylaws and engagement, and one of the things that we talked about specifically was we have a lot of committees in different groups. If you think about a lot of nonprofits and a lot of groups, they may have a committee about, hey, what is the the annual fundraising committee. Well, maybe that fundraising committee should be a function underneath another committee so that way engagement stays up. And so what I mean by that is that you have a primary committee and then their work is the work of these other committees. And the why of that is because it keeps members engaged. So like CERT, and I'm trying to make this relatable back to that example. You mentioned that in 1993. So a lot of people that may listen was like, oh, why would they still have that? I mean, they haven't had an emergency since 1993. That's a long time ago. Like, what are they doing to keep people engaged? Heck, half of those people who volunteered in 1993 are probably not physically able to volunteer. So you look for ways to engage people so that way they stay engaged for when you really need them. And a good example of that is American Red Cross. And Red Cross engages people in their communities not only through the DAT program, disaster assessment teams or disaster response teams, the DIRT, DRT, but they keep those same people that will go and do smoke alarm installs in the communities. So it keeps them fresh. It keeps them connected with their other volunteers. And more importantly, in my mind, when they get done, they have a sense of feeling of appreciation. We talked last night, again, as part of our prep for an upcoming class, that I don't care whether you're paid or volunteer, you want to leave with a sense of accomplishment whenever you're done doing something, right? Whether you get Adam, I'll throw Adam underneath the bus here for a second. He owns his own side business. Before you had, Tidewater helping you guys out with co-packing, I would dare say that as daunting as it was to go into the shop and package bottles, at least when it was done, you could turn around and say, I did ever how many bottles. Would you agree with that statement?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that that's really what it boils down to is in all of these things is you want to feel worth. You want to feel evaluated. I was listening to one of our podcasts again, and I think I'll pick on Adam here for a second. He talked about his 15-year recognition, and I listened to that today and how he was frustrated because he hadn't gotten his 15-year note. And the relatableness of that is that I'm gonna let Matt get all excited. I use the word tout. You don't always have to tout somebody, but you do have to at least acknowledge how they help each other and how you collaborate with folks. So yes, we have them. That's a really long way of saying, yes, we do have these programs. Yes, we do work really, really well with these different groups. I mean, think about it. Even animal services. I mean, who comes and gets the dogs at a fire scene, after you've taken the victims to the hospital for smoke inhalation and there's nowhere for them to go? Somebody's got to do that. They're not riding in the back of your fire engine. Somebody's got to fill that gap. Somebody has to, be the one to provide the mental health post-fire. Somebody has to be the one to show compassion to the little girl who lost her baby doll in the fire, right? And that's one of those things where I think the overlap, and that was where a lot of this frustration came from, was the lack of exposure from media on this, right? They want to show the bad. They don't always want to show the good. And that was one of the things that we had talked about was, how does your agency portray the public perception of what you do? And I think that's where I really wanted to take the direction of this. What story are you telling of your organization? What image are you presenting? And it goes back to, how do you invest in that? My volunteer fire department, we recently had met with our board of directors. We met with a new member, and I told him, I said, look, as the PIO, you will never see me post a call on our page. You won't see it. You may hear me say, due to a traffic accident, there's a road closure, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But I'm not going to take pictures of somebody's bad day and blast it all over the internet because that crap's cool for other firefighters to get excited about. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it at their expense. And it's not for us to do on our personal page. And I'm going to hit a nerve, drop a comment, let me know if you think this is okay or not. I see group pictures of firefighters outside of a burnt house with people smiling, and it bothers me so bad. So bad. This crew went to work. Yeah, you went and did your job. I don't see a group of people outside of a bakery making sourdough bread taking pictures at the end of their shift. Do you? And so at the end of the day, I think that's the difference. So when you're done with a really good training evolution, take that group picture and say, this group committed today to being prepared for your emergency if you need us. That's the pride that you can take in the company that you should show to everybody. Can you celebrate? And hear me out. I'm not so disconnected that I don't understand the why of why you are happy. Number one is the endorphins that you got, but number two is the work that you put in. I understand that. It's the public perception that you're portraying. And nobody, well, I won't say nobody, but most people would say nothing about that photo. They'd scroll right past it. But what do they think? What does the other person think? Right? You don't stop every ugly person at Walmart and tell them, you really shouldn't have wore that. You really shouldn't, you should have really washed your hair before you come out. So we may think it's okay, but what image do we present? So we can still show the camaraderie. We can still show the work that's being done. We can still celebrate everything that's being done, but we don't have to do it at the tragedy's expense. Matt, you look like you were going to say like 3 things, and I'm sorry I got off on a sidebar there.
I forgot all 4 things of the 3 things I was thinking of. But what I will say is we'll be in the fire engine, and I'm going to say this because I think this is the right platform. Even if a non-firefighter is listening to this and it's a civilian, we say, why have we not had more fire? I wish we had more fires. And it's like a double-edged sword, because if we have a fire in a house, it's a bad thing because somebody lost everything, possibly everything that they own. But at the same time, like, that's what we were trained, and that's what we went into this profession looking to do.
That's the prize.
It's right. That's the prize at the end of the gosh darn tunnel. That's the thing at the end of the rainbow. It's like a pot of gold. It's a fire. And we love to go on fires. That's what we are trained to do. That's what we train almost every day to do. We talk about command. We were just talking about command a couple podcasts ago, and how we take command. We take incident command. We put interior, and we put out fires. Like, that's what we're paid. That's what we're paid, to do. It's like,
should wish it upon somebody.
Never wish it upon somebody ever, right? And that's the exact same reason why we take a photo, all of us smiling inside of a burnt structure. And you're 100% correct. You're coming from the chief's perspective. And that's actually the perspective that we should all have. And we all do have it. And it can come off, and the perspective of that picture could be wrong, right? And 100%. Should we post a photo of somebody's house burned down with all of us smiling? No, because we could never show enough or give enough context as to why we're doing that, right? And maybe that's why we have a podcast, and that's why we're sitting here talking about it. And it's a real thing. We take that picture because we fought the beast. We were slayers that day. And then we take pride in that. And
does that same crew, let me stop and ask a question. Does that same crew post a picture asking for donations for that family?
We do.
Well, some do, but most don't.
We had a fire.
Most don't.
Actually, a funny story.
Most don't.
So we'll go story time. So it was this was during COVID, and we had a probationary firefighter, and this was during COVID, and he had to get a test because he wasn't going to get the vaccine, whatever. So he was fine, felt fine, no sick, no nothing. And he gets an email, and his email says, "Hey, you were tested positive for COVID-19. So he goes and tells the captain at the time, I was the engineer at the time, and he says, hey, I got this email. And the captain goes, well, you're going home, dude. So he sends him home. We put out an all call. Hey, we got a firefighter position open. Nobody came in. And we said, screw it. What could happen? And we get a ripping fire that night at 2:00, something like that in the morning. I remember the tones go off, structure fire. And I looked at my captain and I go, of course it happened today. Of course. I get in the rig. I hear the chief. I was at Station 2 where our battalion chief is out of. He goes, hey, PD's on scene saying they got flames. And I'm going, of course we do. So we go on scene with 2 that day. And so this, what it was it was like a taxpayer. So they had residential above a business, and the business just so happened to be like a car mechanic place. Anyways, that doesn't matter. But what we did was afterwards, we put the fire out. The one apartment was a complete loss. We saved the exposures adjacent, which was a huge success. And we raised money as an association for this. And I mean, these local like Target and Ralph's and Albertson, they donated gift cards, and we gave like over $1,000 to this family, to go buy clothes and groceries and hopefully help them, get back on their feet. So there's an answer to your question. It
does happen, but it doesn't happen every time. And the public's expert, and I know what that look was for. Trust me, I get it. I guess what I'm saying is the public perception is that you're training to fight fire. You're not supposed to celebrate fire, nor is it your job to step in and fill the humanitarian need. What's my expectation is that the HOA, Red Cross, someone else is going to do that. And so you are going to get the positive public image, but you know what you're going to get the next time that you don't do it and you have a fire? The negative connotation. So you do it for one and you don't do it for other ones. That's when they're going to jump on the bandwagon.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Well, yes.
And that's what I think that's where my heartburn is with it, right? Is we have to remember our role, our responsibility, our mission, right? And what we're supposed to do, and to constantly remind people of that. Because again, we talked about this several podcasts ago, is when they're talking about cutting the budget and we need someone to advocate for us, do we want the person that has the negative connotation to get up and say, you know what, I'm okay if you don't fund them? Because all they do is post about all the bad things that happen in this community. They highlight the tragedy, and you're like, no, that's not what it's about. It's like, too late. The milk or the toothpaste is already out of the tube. And so, you can't take it back once it's out there. And, you can blame it on the last chief when you get a new chief and hope that you can fix it, or blame it on somebody else. But I think it goes back to that public perception is huge. It's the same thing when you're in the line at the supermarket and the little kid's behind you. Do you take 2 seconds and say, hey, buddy? Or when you're at lunch. You know
what the answer to that is? Every time.
You should be.
Every time.
But I see so many that don't. And I say, that's not a negative connotation towards my fire department. Please, for anyone that is listening from my organization, know that that's not the case. I'm just saying in general, I walk past people when I'm out of town and I'm traveling and I'm plain clothes and I see firefighters elsewhere. I'm not the type of guy that goes up and says, hey, I'm a firefighter back home, whatever. I mean, they're doing their job. I'm just off, right? And I'll walk past them. And I'm not saying you should stop every single person and have that perception. But, I've seen little kids waving at a firefighter and they just keep walking. Now, they may legitimately not have seen them, right? And they may be so lost, but it happens. And I guess that's my thing is like cops' heads are on a swivel, we should be on a swivel. We shouldn't be so focused that we don't engage in those moments, that we don't interact with folks, that we don't share the majority of the good. And I'm going to say this, and I know you have a thought, that takes time. And it needs to be a priority in an organization. Somebody has to do that. We talked about how updating policies, and people are like, ain't nobody got time for that, right? If nothing changed, I'm not going to update it. But you have to invest the time in it, because if you don't invest the time in it, you don't understand what you're not getting back from not doing it. And I think that that's the issue, is somebody's got to invest that time in it so that way it brings value to it. And there are people that are very good at that as long as you can empower them to do that for you. It's the trust factor that happens. It's so hard to trust it because so many chiefs, so many white shirts are looking at it from that lens of saying, once this is out, I don't know that I can get that back. I mean, I've seen agencies, y'all have seen it. A fire department will post something and it could have been from 5 years back, and every post that one person goes back and goes on a rant. What about this? What about that? Whatever. You had that drunk who got in a wreck, whatever the problem was, they're here to be a pain in their side forever. It doesn't go away. And that's what changing the chiefs. So that public image goes a long way. So let me ask a question. Or go ahead, Matt, and then I want to ask a question.
Adam, do you have stickers and fire helmets that you give out to the kids in the community?
Yes.
Done. Right? I mean, if we don't have a packet of stickers I have two.
Junior firefighter.
Exactly. In my cover, in my uniform, I have two pockets. One of them has my business cards, and one of them has my junior firefighter stickers. We
Awesome.
try to give a firefighter sticker to every single kid that we see. And if you don't, you're not doing the right thing, in my opinion.
Love that idea.
It's ridiculous.
I never thought about that. Walking around with it in your pocket.
There's a certain guy that's in charge of ordering helmets and junior firefighter stickers in my department. And he's an engineer, and I've worked with him as a captain. He's an engineer. He'll stop the engine, put it in park, get out and give a child, because we carry little junior firefighter helmets on all of our engines, and we'll just take one, make the kid's day. I mean, it is like the easiest gosh darn thing. And so what I wanted to do, Brian, was I wasn't here that day that you guys had recorded the podcast about the history of the fire department. And I was super bummed that I wasn't a part of that, because I think that the value that conversation is just enormous, because we can never forget where we came from. And not just individually, but as an entire fire service. Okay. The men and women that put in the time, that gave us the notoriety and the perception that the public have of the fire service today, is not because of us. It's because of them.
Yes.
From the 60s, the 70s, the poor guys that were getting out of wars, going and working in the fire service for free, working for pennies on the dollar, that they had to have a second or a third job to provide for their families. Those are the guys that we should be saying thank you to on this podcast. And that's what when I was listening to that podcast in particular, when you guys were talking, I'm like, man, I wish I was there, because you guys did a great job in saying that kind of stuff. But I wanted to be there personally to say thank you to those guys, because they are the reason why we are able to go into homes without knocking and saying, hey, can we come in?
They trust because of that.
100%. And and what that means is, in order to continue that legacy of the amazingness in the fire service all across the country, doesn't matter if it's in California, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, whatever, is that we go to the store with stickers in our pocket and we give them out to children, and we talk to their parents and we educate them on whatever they have. Cause people they don't understand. People will say, oh my, like, I almost feel guilty putting steaks in my cart at the grocery store, because more than half the people think that the city, which their taxes pay for my dinner. They don't. And we educate them, and they say, do you guys pay for your own meals? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We do. One person usually cooks, they'll buy everything, and then we'll split it and we'll pay them back. And not to mention, not just our meals, but our Wi-Fi, the TV that we watch, we buy all that stuff. Like the department will pay for, staples like plates and napkins, paper goods and the cups and stuff like that. But we take that time to educate the citizens, or the community about what we do and what we pay for. And people are just like, wait, the city doesn't pay for your dinner? And we're like, no, like we pay for these steaks on our own. It's no big deal. So, I mean, we don't get steak every night,
Right.
We typically go in and we'll tell them this. Hey, what are you guys having for dinner tonight? Whatever's on sale. Like we'll walk up and we'll go, hey, what do you guys want to do for dinner tonight? What do you guys want for chow? And we'll go, let's just get there and see what's on sale. And it's typically chicken. Chicken is one of the most economical things that you can buy in the grocery store today. And
hamburger meat. You get something with hamburger.
Yeah, we have a lot of hamburger meat and we have a lot of chicken. And we'll do pasta or something like that. But it's I don't know.
And I guess that goes back and it only validates the statement that I was making is what are you doing to educate your community on the most important things, on those public perception issues. One of our neighboring departments did a whole series on that, of the things that, hey, here's what we provide. Here's what we don't provide. Why do you see firefighters in this grocery store? What are they responsible for? What do we cover? And I thought that's really good. Like it helps the public understand it. And probably a lot of that conversation came from, or a lot of the reason for that post came from, we're tired of having that conversation over and over and over again in the grocery store. So if we're not doing that, we're not having that conversation, we can get back to the firehouse. We can spend more time doing maps or training or doing whatever because we're going to the store, right? We have that. So if you invest that little bit of time educating a mass number, just like we talked about going to fires, you're not going to prevent them all. You're still going to go to them. You're still going to have the person occasionally stop you in the store. But if you're putting that out there, it will explain it so much better. Plus the beauty of it is that's a conversation piece in the store. Hey, did you know that on our social media, do you follow us? We actually did a story about all the things that they cover and they don't. We got to get back to the firehouse. You can kind of shorten and close that. That's a pitch. It's an elevator speech. It's a 2-minute story versus a 50%, like a 15-minute class. You don't have time for that. You don't have time to do that every time. No. So again, it's like, hey, if you go follow us, there's legitimately, and 9 times out of 10 people aren't going to go back and look at it. They wanted the short answer, but it gets you out of it. It allows you to be able to navigate away from that. That's part of that. I don't know. I don't want to say that not deceptive way of dealing with it, but it's the way of diverting the conversation and saying, hey, it's not, but if you want to know more about what they do and they don't provide, here's all the things. I mean, a lot of agencies are doing citizens academies and engagement type events. And again, those are really good, but the whole purpose of that is to do what? To be like a train the trainer. So that way you can expose people and then they can go out and talk to other people. So that way they can support it, the mission that you have, but also educate themselves for the sake of perception, especially on the PD side. It got extremely heavily publicized for those types of events post, police brutality incidents here recently. So my question that I was going to ask was, how often, this is an old school versus new school versus minimum standard, how often do you guys clean your trucks? And I'm going to say this, saying that, we talked about the 24-48. I listened to a podcast earlier this week, the first episode, season 2, where the guy on the podcast talked about it didn't matter what time of day it was. It didn't matter the weather. When the truck came back in the firehouse, the truck was sprayed down and the wheel wells were rinsed out. And I think that spoke to pride, but it also spoke to the perception of where people rolled. I say that with a caveat. That's old school. We weren't rolling 7 times a day. We may went out 2 times a day on calls. So now, not being in the station and on the trucks, I don't see that as much. We turn over a clean truck every day. It's washed at least every day and turned over clean. So what is y'all's stance on that? Because that goes back to public perception. What are you okay with? Adam?
We wash it every Saturday. We have we have engine and ambulance. We wash it every Saturday and as needed. So if we gone out like the rain in the shift and it's dry, caked on dirt and stuff, we'll take care of it.
That was a very good, quick answer. Thank you.
Not a problem.
I love it. What about you, Matt?
Our rigs are cleaned every day. They're not washed every day. We'll wash. Right. We just got a DI system at one of our stations. But before that, even
DI, help me out.
Deionized water. So if you use that water, it doesn't spot. Okay. So we got a system that enables us to clean it down and spray it down. Then we'll dry the chrome and the windows. And other than that, it doesn't leave spots. It's very nice. But even before that, if it rained out, if we used it on dirt, we would, it was washed the next shift. But our culture in our department is every morning or every evening, it's waxed and not wax on, wax off. We use this stuff. We used to call it Biffo. So now it's just always called Biffo, even though it's not Biffo anymore. And that's the brand that we used to use, but it's just a spray. And we literally use baby diapers as rags. And we have a service that comes and they exchange the dirty ones for the clean ones. And we have these rags that are literally used as baby diapers. And we use that to wipe down our rigs. And so typically every morning, the engineer, when I was an engineer, I'd get up in the morning, get up at whatever, 5:30. And before the oncoming crew got on duty, it was biffoed, if you will. And so it looked nice and waxed. It was clean. That's just the culture of our department. If we get crushed at night, it might not happen. But our rigs,
is it at least sprayed down and wiped down before the shift? Not biffoed, but
we don't have a lot of space in our. Like if you came to my fire department and you came to 3 out of the 4 fire stations, you'd be like, I understand why you don't wash your rigs, because there's nowhere to wash them. We just, in Laguna Beach, space is money. And so our fire stations aren't on a large plot of land, if you will. So, I mean, we barely have enough parking for all firefighters and ambulance operators anymore. So, anyways, yeah, so we'll take it we have to go to a specific place to wash it. So that doesn't happen every day, but it is cleaned every day. And so the culture of our fire department, this is what I'll end with, is that fire engine is not our fire engine. That is the community's fire engine. And so they say, like when the community comes and they say, hey, your engines look so great. Our answer is, this isn't our fire engine. This is your fire engine. And we're just, we're just here to keep it clean and nice and ready for operation. That's it. That's how we roll. And I'm not like touting us. That's just our culture. It's to leave the engine better than when you got it. That's it. That's all it is.
Well, but I think that statement, if it's truly believed, you can't buy that, right? It's not my engine. It's your engine. It's our engine. One of our neighboring communities literally have you seen the plaques where, like, when a building is dedicated, it'll say mayor, city manager, blah, 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 blah. They install one of those on every fire engine. And I think it speaks to, number one, their appreciation to the people that give them the resources that they need. As an organization, it's a constant reminder of that to the paid people that are there, or not to the paid people, but to the employees that are there, because they'd also had volunteers as well that would ride that truck. That's why I said that. But I think that it shows that, but it's also a constant reminder to those paid staff or those elected officials when they're there of their obligation to provide, right? When you see a fire truck going on the road, you're kind of like, oh, it's like a trash truck. It's like whatever. And in most senses, it is, right? If you think about the public health piece of this, the fire truck, These are all critical services that have to be provided in a community. The difference with it is the cost. How many times are trash trucks replaced versus fire trucks? And that's because of the cost, right? The guy who's riding the trash truck doesn't have the same pride that the firefighter does. And I think, let me add on to that. Due to the cost and the frequency of replacement, I know a lot of guys who ride a trash truck that take a lot of pride in their work, and that's not what I meant. I'm just saying the nature of their work is they understand that that truck is designed to haul trash. It's not meant to look pretty. It's not meant to do that. It's designed to get the nasty stuff from point A to point B. Its role is different. And so I guess what I'm saying is that it's
designed to get dirty.
Right. It's designed to get dirty. Right. And so the pride and tradition and the history and all those other things that we talked about was the constant state of readiness that we have to be in, and the public perception of that, of turning over a clean rig, also speaks to the next shift. If A shift leaves it dirty for B shift, what does it say about the state of readiness that they think? Even as something as little as dirty wheel wells.
Don't forget this. Okay. Don't forget this either. Is just cleaning the fire engine. And I can't even articulate this the way that I should, but cleaning the fire engine is also a direct correlation to everything else that's going on in the fire department. Okay. So that's making sure that we have enough gauze, enough medical equipment, that the equipment's been checked out. Okay. If we have a dirty rig and we're driving down with spots and dirt and all this, what else is a mess in the fire department?
Wow. Right.
So operational readiness, like what is that? What is operational readiness? It's not just a clean rig. The clean rig is just the fact that we have the awareness, like I can't even like articulate it. Like I said, it's the fact that we're aware that we have to have all of our stuff tight. We have to be ready to respond to any kind of call at any moment.
Yeah.
And so it begins with a clean rig, and then it goes down from there. Right. It's attention 100%. To detail. Okay. That's maybe what I was trying to get at. Yes. Attention to detail. And it starts with a clean rig. And then after that, it means that all of our batteries on our e-tools are charged and ready to go. Our rope is all ready to go and ready for a rope rescue, that our monitor has a battery and it can shock you if you need to be shocked. It's all of the above. And it starts with a clean rig. Right. It starts with a clean rig in this conversation. Yeah.
So I'm going to plant a seed. Drop a comment in our video. Let us know if you want to talk about switching gear around on trucks across shifts. That made me think of it. Right. Because I think that state of readiness that's a whole nother conversation. I have an opinion on it. I haven't rode a truck in a long time when it comes to that, but I have an opinion about that and how you get it done. But do you think it's okay for stations to set up trucks differently from one to the other, and should they just do that on their own? So, I mean, like literally that's a thing. So Matt's over there like ticking. Don't go there. We're going to save that one.
I just went into AFib.
I know you did. And I want to know, because there are some people who are like, station one has these risks and I need to set my truck up that way. And other people are like, nope, it should be uniform across the organization.
Whole nother conversation.
But I do think what you're saying is 100% spot on. You've got to have that constant state of readiness and that public perception. If you're riding down in a nasty rig, or that little kid looks over at you and they're waving at the firefighter, but then mom or dad looks over and it's disgusting. It's one thing for it to be the middle of the winter in the Midwest and everybody's cars is covered in salt, and yours is too as a fire truck, because it shows you're out doing work. But it's another thing to be bright, sunny July weather and it looks like trash, because then they're just like, why? Why is that? I mean, we've seen it on social media, right? Where somebody will post a picture of a fire engine and it looks bad. And you're just like, man, that must, like, subconsciously, you're like, that is a crap show if I ever saw one. Right. And you don't even know anything other than just the picture. That's all it is the picture of the fire truck, right? And you're not even, or better yet, firefighters. How about this? Firefighters outside, standing by the truck, their shirt tails are untucked, right? And it's the group photo. It's not like the relaxed, hey, we're around the firehouse just hanging out. It is the official photo. And it's like, you could even tuck your shirt in. That looks bad.
We're not
right?
going to talk about untucked shirts.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
we're not talking about it.
Okay. Well, okay. We don't have to if you don't want to. And I think, we said we wanted to keep this one to 30 minutes. So, I go back and say it's one of those things where there's this, what happens at the firehouse and what we see internally versus what we put out there for the public. Right. And that was the point of this, is what is the public's perception of us? They expect for us to be in a constant state of readiness, high professionalism, the best person at 2:00 in the morning. They don't care that you were dead asleep. They don't care about any of these other things. They expect that you're going to be the person that makes it right. And I think that, again, it goes back to, we don't celebrate tragedy. We celebrate readiness. We celebrate the positive things in our community, the champions that we have, and the successes that we win. And when we do that, who can complain about that? I mean, there's going to be somebody, but the majority will not complain. They will celebrate with us, alongside us. They will champion us. And I think that that's what it is. Organizations should promote promotions, right? Firefighter Smith is now an engineer, and we're super excited. What is that telling it? We're better prepared today because this person invested in who? It's just like that truck. It's not my truck. This is not my firefighter. This is now your engineer. He or she cared enough about you to be ready. You got something to Matt?
No, I was just going to throw the gavel.
I know. We need to be done.
I just threw the gavel down. So we had a open house. We just moved our fire administration to a new building that the city bought. It's beautiful. We had an open house. One of the council members came up and said, "Man, I don't know. I waved at the fire engine, and the guys didn't wave back."
Mm.
And I took that personally. I looked at him straight in the face and I go, "Well, I must not have been working." Because that's not the way that we operate. And that's not the way that our culture operates. Somehow we just didn't see you. I went into like defense mode. Because I was like, that is not how, because we've actually had a council member, I think that she even called the fire chief and said, "Oh my God, I waved at the fire. I didn't even have to wave at the fire engine. They waved at me because they recognized me. I felt like part of the community. I felt like I was belonged there. It was like, it was so great." Right. And it's like, that's exactly what it is. Like that's exactly, like we do it not just for you, but like it makes us feel good to like wave and say hi. And like, that's what, dude, communities are built around public safety. Like if you're going to, and Brian, you know this better than anybody. If you're going to build a new city, you're going to build some sort of unincorporated whatever. The first question is like, what are we going to do about public safety? How many fire stations do we need?
50%, I just want to interject, 50% on average of the tax base, not funds, but 50% of the tax base in most municipality funds public safety. Think about that. Over
communities
50%.
Are built around public safety, and they have to be. That's just the way it is. And that's the way it's always been. It's the way it's always going to be. And
it ain't cheap keeping people safe. It's not.
What a great discussion this has been. I loved it. You guys are amazing. Yeah. I love it. I do too. This was a good podcast.
So, housekeeping. A couple different things that we want to say is we're going to have some guests sprinkled in over the next probably 10 episodes, 15 episodes or whatever. And
coming up on 100. Let's go.
Yes, we will be doing that. So Adam and I over the next, and Matt and I, you're going to see some, in-person podcasts that we're going to be recording in person. And what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you're not subscribed to our podcast, please do that on every platform and hit the notification bell. So when we drop on Friday, you don't forget to listen to the whole thing. And when we ask you to comment, please do, because that helps our engagement and it makes sure that all of our followers are reminded to do it, and it helps put impressions for new followers as well. So by the time that this podcast launches, Adam and I will be at the South Atlantic Fire Rescue Expo. So if you're driving to Raleigh today to listen to this, we sure hope that you will come visit us. If not, and you're listening to this, we will be in the booth together tomorrow at the South Atlantic Fire Rescue Expo. And we would only ask you to make sure that you bring cash and cards to buy all out of Adam's Seasonings in person, Raleigh, North Carolina, August 9th and 10th.
The only thing that I'm disappointed in this podcast is that I wasn't able to see Adam's eyes.
He that's his whole new thing. He loves wearing.
They're such beautiful eyes.
I think 90% of the time he just listens to you and I rant, and then he just closes his eyes with his glasses on.
I'm sorry.
He does look at him. He's grinning.
I'm
He's
sorry.
like, "This is my secret. It's my little secret."
Okay, so we got all this great stuff going on. A lot of live guests coming on, and nothing but greatness for the Cool Fireman podcast. But let's get just a little serious for a second, and we're going to do a moment of silence for all of our brothers and sisters that we've lost over the last week or so. And so let's give this tribute to them. As always, well said.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, I forgot to mention this too. While we are going to be doing those live in persons, one of those is because Matt and I are going to be together in a department here in Eastern North Carolina teaching a class and engaging. And so that's a closed class to that fire department. But if you're interested in us attending virtually or in person and teaching a class or just having a conversation, sometimes it's very, very important for just other people, someone who doesn't have a vested interest, but allows the conversation to happen. As a chief and as a captain, as a firefighter, we have the podcast members that are all across the country. We would be honored to come into the room and have a conversation with you. So send this podcast or one that was one of your favorites that really strikes something to one of your chief officers and tell them, say, look, these guys are willing to come and kind of just, talk us through some of the hard things that we're going through. Or
we're going to have fun.
Or even have a vision. Yeah, I am super stoked. Not only because I get to meet Matt for the first time and hang out with him, but because it is going to be a good time chatting and talking with this department. Should be awesome.
Love it. Are we good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Roll it, Gigi.
Roll it, Gigi.
Before you leave, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give these firemen a huge thumbs up. Also, make sure you check out thecoolfireman.com for more. Thanks!